Welcome to my second channel, Jasmine Baker 2. Thank you so much for joining me. I don't really talk much about my personal life, and I do like to keep it that way for the most part. Some of you guys know that I make like dog food. We had some stuff happen last year with one of my other dogs, and she did sadly pass away after about 10 months after her diagnosis, so we're going to be talking about that today. I don't want to get you guys all riled up and get you all hyped up before the end of the video only to tell you that she passed away, so I'm going to tell you now. Unfortunately, you're kind of like pre-sad for this story, but I do feel it's important because I am a pet owner. I do hope that this helps some of you pet owners out there. Sometimes you don't find out until near the very end. I'm just going to talk to you guys about how I took care of Lucy in her final months of life and just all of the things that I did for her, all the stuff we went through, and I learned a lot. This is not going to be an art related channel. Let's just get into that really quick. This channel, I'm going to be doing some story times like this, as well as maybe just a few short videos about like stuff I do for my dogs. Like I said before, I do make dog food. I make it about every 3 to 4 days, so we go through a lot of dog food in my house and it's much healthier for dogs. Last year I did start working from home in March. I was really happy about starting that. I did have some health issues last year. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about that, but I got sick pretty frequently last year and the beginning of this year, so that was pretty stressful on top of what was happening with my dog. I just want to also do a little bit of backstory so you guys get an idea of the situation. Up to this point last year, which was March of 2020, I had 4 dogs. My oldest dog is Rocky. He is a West Highland Terrier. He's now 15. I have Harley, who just turned 13. He's a pug. I have Sugar, who is half Westie and half Chihuahua. And her mom, she was a Chihuahua. The mom was Lucy and the dad was Rocky, and so that's what a Chihuahua and a Westie looks like. They kind of look like little polar bears. They're very, very cute. She was about 7 pounds when we got her. We got her in 2009 from a friend that was moving. She was right around a year old. And she got pregnant just a few months after we got her. She had 4 puppies in 2009. In November, we kept one of them, which is Sugar, and the other 3 we gave away. Sugar is just about to be 12 years old. So some things about Lucy, like I said, she's a Chihuahua, so she's a relatively small dog breed, and I want you to keep that in mind. So think of a Chihuahua that you know and think of how skinny they usually are. Chihuahuas are usually about 6 to 7 pounds or less. She was a very extremely active dog up until a few months before she passed away. She was old for a Chihuahua. She was about 13. She had a lot of energy. Even when after she had given birth, she still had a lot of energy. Like the kids didn't completely suck the life out of her. So here's a picture of what she looked like in 2009. So she was pregnant, as you can see, and we actually got her spayed because all of the puppies were weaned, so we got her spayed so we wouldn't have to deal with that again because that was very expensive. And the puppies would like cry in the middle of the night, and it was a mess. The next picture that I'm going to show you was just a couple of months after she had given birth, so as you can see, she's thin again. Chihuahuas are extremely smart. She learned commands very quickly. I actually taught her, do you need to go potty, when she was pregnant, because she always had to pee all the time, so she would wait by the sliding door whenever she had to go to the bathroom. So she picked that up really fast, and just over the years the other dogs picked that up too. I say, do you want to go outside? Do you have to go potty? And then they will let you know. They'll go to the sliding door to go to the backyard. Usually they're pretty good about waiting by the sliding door so that you can open it and let them outside. I had taken the dogs to the vet in 2018 for their vaccinations. I normally would go to this low-cost clinic that's local. They technically have vets there, but I've had 2 not so great experiences. This one being one of them, and then the one with Rocky, which I might talk about in a later video because that was a whole different thing. The thing about low-cost clinics is sometimes they'll give you like a really discounted or free wellness exam so that they can basically like run their hands over the animal, look in the ears, look at the teeth, look at their abdomen, all of that, listen to their heart, all of that. So that's what this low-cost clinic does. The thing that I don't like about that is they sometimes rush through it and they're not thorough. Sometimes they're more thorough when you actually set up an appointment, when there's like a low-cost clinic and they do so many exams a day, they have to keep going and go quickly through them. And the reason I talk about this is because these types of exams are not very thorough. If you have the money to go to an actual vet to sit down and like spend time with you and your dog, I definitely recommend doing that instead. That's always a better option, because when you have these low-cost vaccination events or days, some clinics set up like a day a week where there's a clinic, where there's like a vaccination clinic and you don't need an appointment. So they're just like boom, 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 boom. They go through all of these dogs and cats with vaccines, and they're not thorough about the other things, even though the person that's examining your animal is technically a vet. They are a vet, that they have to be there to do that. The one that I went to, at least, is not very thorough. It seems like they didn't always know what they were doing. And when I took Lucy, I was telling the vet, I said, you know, she's making this weird snorting noise. And she's like, when she sits or when she eats or when she runs around, she'll have like these moments where she's like, it sounds like she's snorting through her nose, but it'll go away it'll go away for a few months and then it will come back. The vet was telling me, oh, she's just fat. You need to lower her calories. You need to get her on a different food. The vet basically looked up her nose to see if there was anything in there. That part is important. I'm gonna tell you why it's crucial, because it's not minor like the vet said it was. They were just telling me that she was fat, and I was like, well, why is she fat? She's extremely active. She literally does laps around the backyard with her daughter. They just chase each other back and forth, and she jumps on the couch, off the couch, on the couch, off the couch. She runs through the house with the dogs. There's no reason why she should be fat, and she actually did not eat that much dog food. And at the time I was feeding them mostly dry food. Sometimes I got wet food. But the way that she ate food is she would take a piece out of the big bowl and then she would walk away and eat it. So she ate like at a really slow pace. She did really love table scraps. Like, I always gave her chicken and turkey, and she liked apples. But for dogs, that's really not that much food. They usually burn that up pretty fast with all of the energy that they're expelling running around. So yeah, the vet said, well, she's fat, so she's going to have a hard time breathing. I said, well, what else should I do, because she's really active and she doesn't eat very much. And I was like, why? Her abdomen is like really big and she looks like she's pregnant again, even though that's impossible because she was spayed. And they were just telling me, oh, you should change her food, just change her to a weight control food. I did end up changing their food. I don't remember what I was feeding them before, but I started feeding them the Rachel Ray food because it seemed like a higher quality food. I changed it again after she got the diagnosis that I'm going to tell you about last year. I did not understand what was going on with this dog. She would go months without doing this snorting thing. When the snorting stopped, she started getting coughing fits. And when she would run around, she would have to stop and like catch her breath and cough. I thought it was just because she was overweight. She went on walks too. I forgot to mention that. I walked my dogs. When I had taken her to the vet, this dog weighed 13 pounds. How does a Chihuahua weigh 13 pounds? That's weird. How an extremely active Chihuahua that doesn't eat a lot weighs 13 pounds, that is not pregnant. She's not mixed with any other breed. She was pure Chihuahua. Why does she weigh 13 pounds? Well, we're gonna get into that. Yeah, the vet said since she's spayed, she's gonna gain a lot of weight. There's no way she should have gained that much weight. With all of the running around that she was doing, she burned off a lot of energy just running around the house and playing tag with the other dogs and wrestling with them. It didn't make sense. I don't like how they brushed me off when I was voicing my concerns about my dog. But at the time, I didn't know any better because, you know, they're a vet, they're supposed to know. So you're supposed to follow the recommendations, follow their food recommendations, just hope that the dog loses weight. I've learned now that a lot of vets are just like people doctors, where they brush off people and their symptoms. And they just say, oh, well, you need to do this and you need to do this, and that's all, and then just come back and see me. And frequently there's other factors into why you're sick. I learned that even going to the doctor earlier this year for my own issues. I don't like going to the doctor because I'd rather try and fix the problem myself than to be on a bunch of medication for something that could be fixed in an alternative way. She was a very interesting dog. She was very smart and very cheerful. She wasn't like a regular Chihuahua where she would just like shiver all the time and yap. She just was very calm. People would even tell me, they're like, your dog she's very calm. She's not like a regular Chihuahua. She doesn't shiver. And I said, no, she doesn't. She's very social. She's a very socialized dog. She doesn't shake. That's just the way that she's always been. And as I was saying, like a regular vet, they pay more attention. I know it does cost more to go to a regular vet, but you do get what you pay for usually. They are more thorough, even during the whole situation last year where I couldn't actually go in with my animals to the vet. The vet would like call me in the parking lot and go over everything. Like she went over like every inch of the animal with you. And that's how you know that they did a full exam on the animal. They literally tell you every single little thing to make sure that you know, and then they give you all of your treatment options. They recommend supplements. Earlier last year, I noticed that Lucy's coughing fits were starting to get closer and closer together. They weren't several months apart. They were starting to get to be like every couple weeks, and every week, and then just about every day she was coughing. Every time she would run in the house, she would have to stop and catch her breath and cough. And one day I noticed her heart was just racing really fast, and she just looked like she was extremely out of breath and she hadn't done anything. I called a new vet because the other vet was not open on Mondays. I called a nearby vet and they were able to get her in the same day. So they said that they don't recommend waiting, that they wanted to get her in as soon as possible, and then they were able to just do it for the same day. I took her there. This was right before like everything shut down, so I was still able to go into the lobby, into the exam room with her. Me and my brother sat there, waited for the vet to come in, and he did the exam. He was standing there and he was like kneeling down because Lucy was on the floor. He was just standing there and he was listening to her with the stethoscope. He listened to her for probably like almost a minute straight. It was like a cliffhanger moment, I guess. I was just sitting there just in angst, like what's going on? He hears something. He looks like he's really concerned because he just keeps listening intently. And then he says, I don't know if you know this, but she's got a pretty serious heart murmur. No, she didn't. I was like, no, I took her to the vet just at the end of 2018 and they did not tell me anything about a heart murmur. And he's like, yeah, she has a pretty serious murmur. It doesn't sound like there's fluid in her lungs, but I do want to do some x-rays. Ended up having to keep her there for a couple of hours, so I had to leave. They recommended that she have blood work done, so I had them do that because I really wanted to know what was going on. What if there's something going on and I didn't know for the longest time that she was this sick, that she had this condition. She has a ridiculous amount of energy for a dog her age. I had told him about the coughing before I went there. Vet says, yeah, I want to do some x-rays. I want to see what's going on and see if there's any fluid around her heart. We came back. This time I came with my mom. The first time I came with my brother, but he had to leave. And then the second time I went back with my mom. And my mom was like, I'm going in there. I need to see what's going on and make sure, like, I need to know what's going on too. She's like, I want to make sure they're not going to like take advantage of you and make you do some kind of procedure, make you pay for stuff that you shouldn't be getting. So I was like, okay. Because my mom worked in the medical field for over 2 decades and she's seen everything. Like, she knows a lot. She knows a lot because she also does like research on the side, and she's also had a serious disease in the past, so she knows a lot about certain diseases. The vet says she has a serious heart murmur, and he's like, another thing is she has a pretty large heart for her size just because her rib cage is so little. He said her heart is so large that it's starting to push up on her trachea, and that's what's making her cough. He recommended medication. As you can see on the x-rays, how little her little rib cage is. And there's like a little bent line. It's actually supposed to be straight, but if you look at the x-ray, it's bent because her heart is so big that it's pushing the trachea up. So basically her trachea was getting narrowed because her heart was so big. It has a harder time pumping blood. I had a lot of anxiety. I didn't know what to do, and I just felt kind of helpless because I'm not an animal expert, even though I know a lot about dogs. I didn't know all of this was going on. They told me that they were going to have the lab results over the next couple of days, so I ended up taking her home. They gave me furosemide, which is a diuretic pill to help get rid of some of the excess fluid around her heart. She had to take it twice a day. There was Vetmedin, which is to help the heart pump more effectively. So that was a whole fiasco because later on we had to get refills for that. There were times when I had to go through the vet, but I wanted to go through Chewy because it was a lot cheaper. Chewy ended up running out of the medication eventually. Checked, I think, 3 or 4 other online pharmacies. They were just completely out because the manufacturer had paperwork issues, and because of the whole pandemic thing that they were extremely back ordered, and they were only making like a limited supply. Think of that, a life-saving heart medication for dogs and cats and actually a bunch of other animals is completely on back order or completely out of stock, and some places are still sold out of it. So it's been out of stock in some places for well over a year. I feel bad for the other people that probably went through the same thing I did, trying to call around and check online to see who can fill this prescription. And they would only fill 1 month supply at a time. So it's not like I could get like a 30 or like a 90-day supply or something like that every month. When she ran out, I had to call the vet or check and see if one of these online pharmacies that has a cheaper could fill it. I had to keep getting it filled through my vet, which costs more. I was also paying for the convenience because I didn't have to wait for it to get shipped, wait for the prescription to go through. I just couldn't believe that the vet that I had talked to about not even a year and a half earlier they either didn't notice that she had a murmur, or they just didn't think anything of it, or they just completely overlooked it. A dog does not go from no murmur in November of 2018 to March of 2020 having a severe heart murmur with an enlarged heart. So she either was born with a heart defect that the previous vet overlooked, or they just didn't care. I don't know. She had about 10 months left to live. Said that the medication would help for so long. It will seem like she's getting better for a little while. She's going to have a harder time breathing. She's going to start coughing up a lot of fluid when she gets near death, and then she'll pass away soon after. She could live as long as 12 months, but 10 months was about accurate for the severity of what she had. The vet said I didn't have to change her diet. I ended up doing that anyways. He didn't require any dietary changes, but my mom was telling me all of this stuff. She said it's like congestive heart failure in people. They have to be on a low salt diet. I did end up having to change them from Rachel Ray food to Diamond Naturals. They made a special food for, I think it was a food for senior dogs, but it was really low in salt. She was able to eat that. So I ended up changing all of my dogs over to the new food because I didn't want to buy 2 different brands of food. They ended up liking the new food a little bit more. I just made simple food with either chicken or turkey, carrots and peas in there, or green beans and spinach, and she would eat that. So I was trying to make sure she was also getting enough potassium. I got her a potassium supplement that would just helped her to continue flushing out water, so her heart was still gonna benefit from the potassium, because when you have heart disease, you're supposed to take You should take certain supplements. I'm not a doctor, obviously, but if you go to like a holistic or some other natural type of doctor, they're probably going to recommend that you be on certain supplements so that your heart can start healing. For dogs, just because she was so old, there was not really a way for her heart to heal, but we could prolong her life. I would take her on walks out at night. I would wait until the sun went down and I would walk her up and down the sidewalk, which she enjoyed. I would do that a couple of times a day. Sometimes I would do it on my break during the day, like in the morning. So you have to make sure that they're walking around a lot. You cannot have a dog with heart failure lay around all the time. She had to keep moving around all the time, constantly keeping her walking. I wouldn't let her lay down for more than like a couple of hours unless it was like overnight and she was sleeping. She would actually start coughing when she was laying down a lot. And I understand she wanted to lay down a lot because her body was working really hard. When we got her blood work back, the vet told me that not only was her heart failing, he said since her heart was failing, she had enzymes that were building up in her liver. So he recommended a supplement called Denamarin. It's supposed to help the liver metabolize a little bit better. I put her on that, so she was on 3 medications, in case you lost track of that. I actually got her one of those little pill trays that have the days on them. I measure out her pills for each day, and that way we didn't have to check and see, oh, did you give her pills? Did she have her pills? My mom and I were doing that for a while. I have an old cell phone that I don't use anymore. I started keeping that charged. I programmed the pill reminder alerts so it was 10 p.m. every day and 10 a.m. every day. Lucy actually got a little bit programmed into hearing that that phone that she was going to get her pill pocket, so she associated that with a treat. So every time she heard that, or I say, Lucy, do you want your pills? She would run into the kitchen because she knew it was snack time. She's really smart. That's what I mean by that. She picked up on that stuff pretty quickly. She's like, this is time for you to give me my pills. Sometimes she would just stand there in the doorway like, I'm supposed to have my snack now. She always associated that with the pill pockets. When I would walk Lucy by herself, she eventually rejected her harness. She did not want to wear her harness. And the good thing about her, she didn't run off because she knew like she would come back when you called her. So she was extremely smart in that aspect as well. So she would go on walks as long as she didn't have to wear her harness. She hated it, and I kind of understand why, because it was probably uncomfortable. It probably pushed up on her trachea, and that's why she would refuse to wear it. As soon as she saw me take it out of the closet, she would walk the other way and she wouldn't want to go on her walk. What she would do is she would walk ahead of us, and basically everybody would follow her. Everybody else, they would just follow her, and then we'd go halfway down our street. We reached our landmark, and she knew where we were supposed to stop walking and where we were supposed to turn around. She'd go all the way up there, and then she would stop, and she'd wait for everybody, and then she'd turn around. Oh, she also would stop when we asked her to stop, because sometimes she would go too far ahead. We'd say, Lucy, wait! And so she would sit there and wait for us to catch up and then continue walking again. When I had them in the house, I would just take her out more frequently because she had to use the bathroom so frequently. Pills were making her kidneys work a little bit harder, so she drank a lot more water. She had to urinate a lot more. She went a lot, and there were times when she could not make it outside, and she would pee in my room. We went through this whole thing September and October of last year of her just like peeing on my bed and in my closet. She would pee on my bath mat, on my carpet. Like, she didn't make it outside in time. It wasn't her fault. It was her medication. I just don't believe that the vets I took her to previously at the low-cost clinic did a good enough job. They could have looked harder, could have known earlier had they done their jobs correctly. They could have at least detected somewhat of a heart murmur, but they didn't even mention anything about her breathing other than she was just fat and brushing me off. They don't take you seriously. The one vet tells you that she's just fat because she's spayed and she needs to stop eating so much, and then the other vet's like, no, she has congestive heart failure from an enlarged heart. So my mom and I did a lot of research, mostly online, but she was really just helpful, especially in telling me like what should we do with Lucy and what kind of supplements we should give her, because they make a lot of dog versions of supplements that they have for human heart disease. She did pretty well. The only other thing I would say is when we took her on walks, she actually did not cough on walks. Those were the only times that she did not have that horrible cough. Every other time when she was walking around the house, moseying around, laying down, she would cough. But when we took her on walks and she just got her, I don't know if it's like a circulation thing or just because her heart was working, it was just pumping more when she was walking, maybe that helped with the cough. I really don't know to this day. That's still a mystery that she didn't cough on walks. She was way ahead of the other dogs when she was on walks. Like, you couldn't even tell that she was sick. She had her same amount of energy. She was way ahead of everybody else. We all had to keep up with her. She was dying. We took very good care of her. She was very loved. Her health really started to decline around the end of December of last year. She would just walk really slowly. She would go to the bathroom, and then she wanted to go back up the driveway into the house. She didn't really want to walk very long. I thought she got stung by a bee, so that's why I thought she was acting really strange, because a bee sting will do that to dogs. I really don't know if that's what happened. That very well could have been what happened, or maybe her heart murmur just got worse and the heart was getting larger. I don't really know what happened, but that's what she was doing for about 3 days. Near the end of the second day of whatever was going on, she started feeling better, and I was eating a breakfast burrito and it had steak in it, and she wanted some, and I was like, oh my god, you're eating again, I'm so happy. I was just giving her little pieces of steak. January 19th, yeah, the day after that, she stopped eating, and she just laying around again. She was barely drinking anything. And then I noticed that she was starting to cough up fluid. I just kind of knew in my brain that she was going to pass away soon. Based on what the vet said, she was going to cough up fluid and eventually pass away. She was just kind of moseying around the house. I had taken her out. It started to rain, and she was just breathing really, really heavily all day that day. You could see her abdomen just really contract and expand. She was struggling. Those last 2 weeks, I was starting to do hydrotherapy on her. I had done some research on this natural pet website, and hydrotherapy is especially useful for animals that have heart failure, you put them in a tub, you start running warm water under their armpit. Depending on the dog, the right armpit might have the pulse or the left armpit might. For her, it was the left side. I put her in the kitchen sink and then I would like bleach it after. I got the sprayer and I would put warm water on her. You just keep letting it run over that spot. You increase the temperature a little bit until it's just hot enough for you to still touch so it doesn't burn the animal. And you do that for about a minute. You switch over to cold water really fast. You do the cold water for a minute and then you just alternate those for the next like I think it's 1 to 2 cycles of that. It actually increases the circulation. It can also help her relax. Some dogs will start yawning when you do that, which she did. She started yawning because she started getting more relaxed. It dilates the blood vessels. The circulation is better. You finish it off either with the warm water to keep them relaxed, or you can finish off with the cold water. The cold water will get them a little bit more energetic. It's just something that just keeps them more comfortable when they're in that situation. This is just all stuff I've learned just taking care of her. I was trying to find out, what can I do to improve her quality of life in addition to the medication, because the medication only does so much. And she had a very high quality of life. Like I said, she wasn't laying around all of the time, just those couple of moments where she was just really worn out and just really struggling. Thank you so much for joining me, you guys. Last year was an extremely hectic year. I had to work a lot. I'm just happy that I got to at least get the 10 months I had with her. She was a really awesome dog. I do still miss her. If you guys have any questions, leave it in the comments. I will see you guys next time. I'm still trying to figure out an upload schedule for this channel, because I know on my main channel it's 2 Fridays a month. That's all I can handle for that. Plus I don't draw very often, so it's not that easy trying to post artwork that frequently. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you 2 weeks from now. Bye!